Welcome to another episode of Financial Empowerment with Nick Abrams. I'm your host, Nick Abrams. For nearly 20 years, I've had the pleasure of advising countless individuals and couples on their finances. I've worked with them to put together their strategies to help make their financial dreams become reality. On the other hand, I've also seen countless people make financial mistakes. Not that they made those mistakes on purpose, but they just did not have the resources or the tools to empower themselves financially. That's why this show was created. Each episode, we bring topics and quality guests and experts in the field dealing with money and finances to give you the tools and resources to empower yourself financially. I was looking in a magazine the other day and thinking about why do people make financial decisions that aren't good? Really dealing with money and looking at how money factors into your mind, your thinking. Money is a powerful emotion, and there are different emotions that come with money. There's happiness, anxiety, depression, anger, envy, resentment. We tend to see money and the pursuit of money as happiness. But can money really bring you happiness? Well, we're going to talk about this and a lot of other things today. I'm really excited because the topic of today's show is the psychology of money. We have a special guest on today's show, Dr. Latrell Simmons. Dr. Simmons, welcome to Financial Empowerment with Nick Abrams.
Thanks for inviting me.
So how are you doing?
I'm doing good today.
So now you're a licensed psychologist.
Yes.
Tell us a little more about yourself and your background.
Okay, so I've been doing therapy for almost 20 years now.
Okay.
I started my career working in a prison system, helping individuals learn about life skills.
Really?
So I was a coach.
Okay.
And so many of the things that I did was talk about basic budgeting. What do you do with your finances? Mm-hmm. And how did you learn about managing your money? And so over the years, I've had opportunities to be a career counselor,
Okay.
And to help my clients that are suffering with financial difficulties, from bankruptcy, right, to even when someone finds themselves in a financial windfall, meaning I've gained a lot of money,
Okay.
right? The anxiety, the excitement, but the anxiety that comes along with having lots of money.
Yes.
How do I manage that?
Like they say, more money, more problems.
More problems. It can be true, because now it's like, okay, what do I do with this money? I haven't had this much, but what do I do with it now?
Okay.
And those are some of the things we talk about. What are your values? What are your core beliefs surrounding money? How do you value it?
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell us about your graduate studies. Where did you get your education? A little bit about your business, because you're in private practice, correct?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Yes, I am. So I got my master's degree at Georgia State University in professional counseling. During that time, I did my internship as a career counselor. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things we talked about is how important is money when you're choosing your career?
Wow.
Is it a value of yours? Because if you choose to be a therapist, you're not going to make a lot of money.
Really?
Right. 20 years later, maybe. Right.
Okay.
But starting out, you won't. And
Okay.
so that is an important factor to consider when choosing a career. If I value money and it's important to me, then I need to pursue a profession that will make that possible. So from there, I proceeded to pursue my PhD. I took a few years off, but I had mentors in my life that felt like I would be a great psychologist. So they encouraged me to pursue my PhD. And that brought me here to DC.
Okay.
At Howard University, where I got my degree in 2012. After graduating, I decided to set up my private practice here in the city. I saw that there was a great need for our services, especially for minority psychologists, because it's limited. And so from there, I started, it was just me in a small well, I guess it was big for the beginning.
Right.
But on 8th Street.
Saw the vision.
I saw the vision.
All right.
And so that's where I took on the practice, and we've been fortunate to grow and now we have 4 therapists on
Wow.
staff
Okay,
that is
congratulations.
providing services to the community.
Okay. So let's talk about, when you think about the psychology of money, most people think money is just about the number. This is it. Numbers don't lie. There's an old saying. Tell us about the relationship or the psychological relationship with money.
With money. Okay, so I take a cognitive behavioral approach to therapy. And so basically what that means is that what you believe influences how you think and therefore influences your behavior, right? And so we establish core beliefs about money as we're growing up. Even if our parents didn't directly talk to us about money, they modeled to us
Really?
how you manage money, right? And so you go out in the world, right,
Okay.
oftentimes with these core beliefs, and so when I become an adult and I'm out there, paying my own bills, where did I learn that from? And oftentimes we grew up in homes where sometimes the lights were turned off. Or, having material things was more important than where we lived, right? And so you find yourself repeating those patterns unconsciously, And so now, how do I learn new ways of being when I've been trained or it's been modeled to me my entire life?
So you're saying basically that generation, what we saw our parents do, what they saw their grandparents do. So it's not just about the numbers. It's not about just balancing your checkbook. It really is a psychological effect that money does have.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
We're going to take a quick break and come back and get more into this topic because this is getting good. Ladies and gentlemen, please make sure that you're taking notes on this. There's going to be some very valuable information. We've got Dr. Latrell Simmons here. We're going to be right back after a short break. Hello, I'm Nick Abrams, host of Financial Empowerment with Nick Abrams, and this is your financial tip of the day. So you've just received a letter from your employer saying that they're offering you a buyout, a chance to leave your job and retire to pursue other goals and dreams. They're going to offer you a lump sum of money. Before you get excited and sign that piece of paper, there are a couple of things you need to consider. 1, can you afford to retire? Have you taken a look at your current financial situation to make sure you're in the right place and that everything is done necessary to make sure you can enjoy this retirement? Secondly, what about your health care? How are you going to handle health care? Are you going to be on a spouse's plan? Or are you going to have to go out and find your own health care coverage, and what's the cost of that going to be? Don't make a hasty decision. Get professional help. Consult with your financial advisor, your accountant, CPA, but make sure that you're making the right choice before you go out and accept that buyout. Because once you do, you might be making a decision that you regret. Or on the flip side, it might be the best thing for you. I'm Nick Abrams, and this is your financial tip of the day. So, Dr. Simmons, we were talking about the psychology of money, and you were educating our audience about how we pick up those spending habits, money management habits from our parents, and sort of starting that generational track of money. Those behaviors, how do those behaviors dictate your spending habits?
So if we think about just behaviors in general, how you value things, right, can influence your behavior. So if having things is important to me, right, when I get money, my priority is not going to be focused on meeting my basic needs. It's going to be on getting the things that I desire, right? And so what will happen is I'll go get the things I desire. I won't think about the consequences of it until they actually arrive. So when it's time to pay the monthly bills, it's like, I spent my money, right? And I had joy in spending that money, right? Because I'm getting the things that I desire, right?
Then the reality sets in.
Because what that communicates to you is that you value things, right? Which oftentimes we don't want to acknowledge or admit that. You know, it's like, oh, taking care of my family, having shelter is most important. But your actions actually communicate what your true values are.
Now, you said something in that statement that we value things. Where does that come from? Is that a society? What's?
Well, I think it's a combination of things. We live in a capitalist society, right?
Okay.
Of course. So it's about achieving things, achieving wealth. You know, we're a consumer in society. And so I looked at that article that you mentioned in Psychology Today, right? And so we talked about growing up in poverty, not having, right? And oftentimes when individuals grow up not having, they want more. And so when they get the opportunity to have more, that's what drives them. I did without for so long, right? It's kind of like when I'm denied something, I wanted more at all consequences. Right? And so our environment and our culture influences how we view money.
All right. So I'm going to take this to a different level. Is there a fancy psychological term, studies that have been done on this?
Of course, there's always a study. If you name it, there's been a study. You know, of course, finances is not my specialty, right? But the knowledge that I have about psychology in general, because psychology is in everything, right? We are influenced by our beliefs in our mind, and that's psychology. So
I never knew that.
Yeah, so any subject that you bring up, I can connect it and tie it to psychology. The foundation that I learned in my education allowed me to use those same principles. You mentioned earlier that when it comes to money, it brings happiness, it brings anxiety and depression, right?
A lot of emotions.
A lot of emotions. So if you're struggling with your finances, then it's going to be difficult to manage those emotions. And so that's where a therapist or psychology can come into play and help you manage those emotions so that you can make better choices with your finances.
Wow. So can those behaviors be changed? And if so, how do you change them? Do we make an appointment to come see you and say, okay, this is my problem, fix it? Is it that easy?
Yes, it's not that easy, but you can come in and say, hey, these are some of the challenges that I'm having. And so the first step I would do is explore with you your beliefs about money and where they came from. Many of us are not in tune with that. We don't think it's like, oh, I never want to be like my parents, right? And so we discount how much influence they had on us. And so that I would explore that with them so that they can gain some insight into why they are behaving the way that they are. And then we lead to educating them about new ways of being. And then I always encourage them to use their support systems. And so whether that's a financial advisor, right? Or whether that's another family member or friend that they know has financial security.
Okay. So we're looking at changing it. Are there certain things that you can control with dealing with the psychology of money, your spending, your finances? How do you get to that point where you can say, okay, I've got that control, this I can handle, this I just can't?
Okay. So I'm sure you tell your clients, number one, budget.
Yes. Yeah.
Sit down and write it down. Don't just keep it in your head, right?
Yes.
Because when we have it in our head, it's easier to minimize or deny what
or forget,
right? Well, because I don't want to feel anxious, right? I don't want to feel depressed. And so my first response for many people is just to be in denial and to suppress it. And so one of the biggest steps is sitting down and actually writing those numbers out. I tell my clients, I don't really need to know how much. I want you to do it for yourself so that you can face the reality and deal with the emotions, right, of being out of control with your finances. So that's the first step in taking control of your finances again.
Wow. Okay. So this is going to be a two-part question right here. Does money change us? And if so, is it necessarily a bad thing?
Yes, it changes us, right? And it's not always a bad thing, right? Again, that goes back to your core beliefs and values about money, right? Money brings us security, and we all want a sense of security. We feel safe, right? When we know that the bills are going to be paid each month, right?
That's a good thing.
But often the challenge becomes when we value things more than we do people. So when you get lots of money and you value things, right, you overspend.
Hold that thought. We're going to be right back. I told you, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be a dynamite show. We've got Dr. Latrell Simmons. We're talking about the psychology of money. You're watching Financial Empowerment with Nick Abrams. We'll be right back. And we're back with Financial Empowerment with Nick Abrams, our guest, Dr. Latrell Simmons, and we're talking about the psychology of money. When we closed out, we were talking about a couple things really with habits and changing and forming things. I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about spending and those things like compulsive buying. Is that really a disorder, or is that just something we just made up as a society?
No, it really exists.
Really?
We all can be impulsive, right, about different things. Again, I have to tie everything back to our core beliefs, which were established in our childhood, right? And so when we want to feel good, right, in life, because happiness is something, we think it's a destination, and once we get there, we're going to always be happy.
Yeah,
but that's not true.
I've learned that.
Right? So I tell people happiness requires action. It's a verb, right? And so you have to do things to make you happy.
Right.
But a lot of times we pick up bad habits in order to make us happy, whether that's drinking, right? Whether that's drugs, whether that's women, right? But some people, it's spending, right? It's going out and buying things, right? That initial feeling of, wow, this is new, I like it, I feel good, right? And so that's all you're focused on in the moment, is the pleasure of buying something that you desire.
Wow.
And only later, right, do you feel the consequences of that impulsive buy? Because I wanted to feel good.
Right.
I wanted to deal with the stress of the day, right? So we don't think about it in the moment. So by definition, that's compulsive, that's impulsive, because I'm not thinking about the consequences to after the fact.
So the next time I go out and buy something, I'm going to be thinking, am I trying to compensate for something else, had a bad day? Is this really going to make me happy? This is good information here. So I was reading in Psychology Today, and this was interesting. There are 3 categories of money disorder. One of them is talking about avoidance.
Yes.
Can you elaborate on that for us?
Okay, so have you known that person, they say, oh, he's frugal or she's cheap?
Yeah.
Right? So those are individuals that may avoid spending money because they're afraid of not being financially secure.
Wow.
Right?
So that's really
It's a disorder because so you have the person, earlier I said you have the person that because they did without, they will go out and spend a lot.
Right.
But then you have that person on the opposite end of the spectrum that says, I kind of have to hoard my money, right?
Wow.
Because if I spend too much, right, then I can place myself in those situations growing up that were not pleasant. I don't want to find myself in that situation again. And so we do it less. Like I knew someone that, instead of getting his car repaired, right, which he had the money to do so because he was a money hoarder, right? But what he would do, instead of spending the money because he thought it was too much, he would take an hour to get to work. I'm going to catch 3 buses instead of investing the money to fix my car, which is an investment.
Right.
And me getting to work.
Travel to get to work.
It was like, oh, it's too much. And so I need to hoard my money over here, which, you sit money over here, it has no value, especially if it's just in a bank, in a savings account, right? It has no value, right? You can't take it with you. You're supposed to use it for things that allow you to live and be happy.
Wow. That was good. So next time, instead of calling somebody cheap, maybe I need to tell them to call you. The second thing, worshiping money.
Yes.
So we've all talked about that greed, gluttony, and all of that, worshiping money. So it's really a disorder.
Well, again, what you value, is it important to you, right? It's that person that is a workaholic, right? And so I'm going to deny or not focus on other areas in my life. I'm going to work all the time. So you see that wife or that husband that says, sure, the money is great, but you're never here. Right? And so you are driven by the desire to have money. And so you neglect everything else. So you've seen that people that at the end of their career, one of the biggest regrets that they will tell you is that they worked all the time. They didn't make time for their family. They were in the pursuit of money.
Wow. Third one, that relationship with money.
Yeah, the relational one. What can I say about that? So how do I view money? I'm drawing a blank on the relational one.
It's not a problem, but really talking about how, people feel. Is it a good feeling, a bad feeling with money? But as we get ready to close out, how can someone improve their financial health, their mental health with money? I mean, is there a way, as we talked about all these different areas, the disorders, things of that nature, that psychological effect, what are 2 or 3 things you would tell our viewers?
Again, don't suffer in silence. Okay? Don't keep it to yourself. Oftentimes, when we have challenges with money, shame and guilt comes with that. Right? And so when I feel guilt or shame, then I suffer in silence. And then I can't get the help that I need. Because oftentimes the resources are just out there, but you have to ask. And you have to be honest about what your challenges are. And so if you just share with someone that you trust in your support system, they usually can direct you in the place to get the help you need. Whether that's from a financial advisor, as if it has gotten so severe that you need a therapist. Because there are many people that, and I know it's a hard word to hear, but there are many people that commit suicide because their finances are in disarray, right? And they don't see an out, right? And sometimes it can get that severe. Right? It could be as minor as, oh, I just need to talk to someone that helps me manage my money. But it could be on the other end of the spectrum where if I don't get to this together, that depression that you mentioned will become severe enough that I will consider taking my life.
Wow. We've got to close out. Dr. Simmons, the name of your company?
Reignite Psychological and Consulting Services.
And your website?
It's reignitepsych.com.
So I'd like to thank you. I told you, viewers, this is going to be an excellent show, really looking at the psychology of money. As Dr. Simmons said, if you feel that anything that you heard or saw on today's show resonated with you, there are options. Seek help, seek counsel. Money is a very powerful and an emotional tool. And done the right way, you can be very happy. But if you're not feeling that happiness and that depression because of money, definitely seek help. Until next episode, I'm Nick Abrams. Please make sure you take the time to financially empower yourself.